Start by measuring out 1 teaspoon of kosher salt per pound of chicken. I have a 6 pound chicken, which equals 6 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons if you want to use the conversion. Set that aside so that it will limit the number of things you have to touch with hands that are contaminated with raw chicken. Then you're going to want to do some trimming. Trim off the flaps of skin and fat right at the opening of the cavity. You can use a sharp knife, and sometimes it even just pulls off in one piece like this. Then you want to trim the wingtips. They're just skin and bone, there's no meat there, and they can burn really easily in a hot oven. So just slice between the joint, and then you can just slice the whole thing off in one piece like that. And set those aside because they are a great addition to your chicken stock. Then you're going to take that salt and apply it evenly inside and out of the chicken. If you remember from the bean stew video, salt will draw out excess moisture, which concentrates flavor. Now you want your chicken to be moist and juicy and delicious, and so you might be wondering, why do I want to draw out moisture? And it's important to remember that a juicy, succulent chicken is not a product of it having a ton of excess water in it. It's a product of rendering and liquefying some of the fat in it, and most importantly, cooking it to the proper temperature. It doesn't really have much to do with how much water is actually contained interstitially in the protein strands in the meat. The other reason we want to get rid of excess moisture is that is the secret to getting really crispy skin, which is one of the best parts of roast chicken. So make sure that you get it everywhere in all of the crevices, and make sure that at least half of the salt goes inside the chicken, goes into the cavity, because that way it's going to season the meat from both sides, from the exterior and the interior. So once you have evenly distributed your salt, you're going to place your chicken on the tray, preferably on some type of cooling rack, so that there can be 360 degrees of air circulation. And then you're going to immediately wash your hands, following the recommended protocol of at least 20 seconds with soap and lots of hot water. Not that you ever want to have food poisoning, but now in particular would be a bad time to have to go to the hospital. Then you are going to place that chicken uncovered in your refrigerator for as long as possible. I'm doing about 8 hours because I'm going to make it for dinner tonight, but you could certainly do it for 24, 48, or even 72 hours. Again, the salt is going to draw out the moisture, and then the dry environment in the refrigerator is going to cause it to evaporate. Once you've done that, immediately clean everything that touched raw chicken, all of your tools, your cutting board, and make sure you scrub down your sink. You know, it's also worth mentioning that cooking a whole roast chicken also decreases the likelihood that you'll be exposed to a foodborne illness like Salmonella or E. coli, because a whole chicken will have been exposed to far less processing equipment than a package of chicken parts. All right, it's 8 hours later, so I am preparing my seasonings, about 2 teaspoons each of fresh black pepper, dried thyme, and turmeric. These are just things that I like. You can use whatever you've got. Smoked paprika, Aleppo pepper, a dash or two of cayenne if you like spice, or you can just go plain salt and pepper. You can keep it really simple. There's like 100 ways to do this right, so don't stress out about it. Just use what you like, use what you have on hand. I like to get my seasonings together and then drizzle in some olive oil and turn it into kind of like a paste, which makes it easy to spread onto the chicken. Then I get some oil in the skillet and add my vegetables. Just like with the seasonings, the veggies can really be whatever you have on hand, whatever you have access to, whatever you like. And you can also make it with no vegetables at all, just a little oil in the skillet and the chicken, and that's it. I had a couple cloves of garlic left over from the bean stew, so I threw those in there too. No need to peel them or chop them, just in the skin, toss them in there, and they will roast up and get sweet and caramelized and soft and really delicious. In general, don't stress about making your veggies look pretty. Just try to make them roughly the same size so that they will cook at roughly the same rate. Don't stress about it, just keep it in mind. Get everything coated in oil, and then just clear a little space in the center for your chicken so it doesn't rest directly on top of any of the veggies, which will just prevent them from kind of cooking evenly. The veggies under the chicken will be a little undercooked. Then give the veggies a light sprinkle of salt and fresh black pepper. I should mention, before I started prepping all of this stuff, the seasonings and the veggies, I did take the chicken out of the fridge to let it slightly warm up toward room temperature. That just helps it cook evenly in the oven. So take a look at this. Just 8 hours in the oven, and you can already see the way the skin has kind of tightened against the flesh. That, once again, is because of the excess moisture being drawn out, and that is what is going to give you really crispy skin. Yes, I'm wearing jean shorts. I made them myself, and I love them. So then you're going to take that flavored oil and rub it all over the chicken. Unlike the salt, you want to get most of this on the exterior, but definitely make sure you drizzle a little bit into the cavity as well. You can really start to appreciate the kind of buttery sunset color that turmeric is going to lend the chicken once it's done roasting. Let's take a second and talk temperature. You can roast a chicken at virtually any temperature, and there's no right or wrong way, but I like a high temperature, like 425. I think that it creates a crispier skin, the chicken gets done a little bit faster. The drawback is just that you have to be very attentive because you can overcook the chicken faster than if you were roasting at a lower temperature, like say 350. So again, there's 100 ways to do this right. You just kind of have to pick the one that works best for you. I also happen to have a leftover bunch of fresh rosemary, so I'm going to stick that in the cavity. You could stick a lemon in there or some onion wedges or nothing at all. You can just leave it empty. Then I'm going to situate it on the pan between the veggies. Some people say that you have to truss the chicken. What that means is taking some butcher's string and tying the legs together to kind of close up that cavity and make it a more compact unit, which helps it cook evenly. You do not have to do that. It's great if you have butcher's string, and I do, but I purposely didn't do it because I want to demonstrate that it's not necessary to create a great roast chicken. Then one last little sprinkle of coarse salt over the skin to just make sure that that skin is really crispy, salty, savory, delicious, and then this sucker goes in the hot oven. Here's the thing, I wish I could tell you exactly how long this needs to roast for, but that's impossible because everyone's oven is a little bit different and chickens are not all the same size. What if you're roasting a 4-pound chicken? That's 30% less thermal mass than my 6-pound chicken, and obviously it's going to cook at a different rate. So I set a timer for 20 minutes, and that's when I start checking the temperature. The only way to make sure this chicken is perfect is to cook it to a temperature, not to a time. And the temperature you're looking for is between 155 and 160 in the thickest part of the breast. For this big 6-pounder, it took about 45 minutes. Once you've reached your desired internal temperature, pull the chicken out and let it rest for at least 10 minutes and up to half an hour before you slice it. Again, it's a lot of thermal mass, and it is going to stay very hot for longer than you think. The meat is tender and juicy, delicious. The skin is crispy, salty, and savory. You can see the veggies have gotten a little bit of caramelization on them, so they are sweet and intensely flavorful. Hey, look at that side dish. It's vegan bean stew that I made a couple days ago. So this is just a tremendously amazing meal. You may have to take a bite directly from the skillet. No judgment. Please make it. Let me know how it goes.